Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter at Clinton Global Initiative in New York. With me now, General Wesley Clark. General, good to see you again. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Two new attacks on icons of Western influence over the weekend, both in Nairobi and in Pakistan. How do you view these attacks?
Well, this is the enfranchised Al-Qaeda that's trying to strike back, and they are trying to strike back because we've got a very effective campaign against them. Wherever they are, they bring and we bring the resistance to them. So in Pakistan or in East Africa. It's unfortunate what happened in Kenya, but the Kenyans have been very constructive with the United States. They're working very hard against Al-Qaeda in Somalia.
Was militant Islam on the decline? Is it resurging, or do you think that we've sort of turned a blind eye to it?
There's certainly no blind eye to it. I think that what's happened is the central coordination mechanism was struck and taken down by when we took down Osama bin Laden. These are Al-Qaeda wannabes. They're sort of franchisees. They're out there. They take advantage of developing nations, lack security, and Muslim populations to infiltrate. And then when they surface and they cause mayhem and murder, and then we go after them and we drive them back away and underground.
Was it a mistake for the U.S. to withdraw militarily from the Mideast, or you feel that was a wise move?
Well, we haven't actually withdrawn militarily. We got our boots off the ground in Iraq, but we've got more than 100,000 soldiers, sailor, airmen, and special forces over there. So there are lots of service members over there. We've got lots of capabilities. We're anything but withdrawn. And in fact, in East Africa, it's a very active theater of U.S. engagement, as well as in other places on the Arabian Peninsula.
Let's switch gears real quickly and chat for a second about Egypt, where the Muslim Brotherhood was outlawed. What do you think is the next step for the U.S., which wants to support Arab Spring countries transitioning to democracy, but here we have one that has basically outlawed a major political group?
Well, I think that we've got to go step by step in this. And, we can't push democracy. Democracy is a fragile flower. I mean, in the United States, we have our own problems with democracy. This is difficult. And so it's not a smooth, linear process. It takes nations a long time to get into it. When the United States got into it, of course, only men could vote, and not all men could vote, and there were still slaves in this country, and if people didn't own property, they couldn't vote. So it wasn't a democracy even when the Founding Fathers set it up that we see today. So we have to be a little bit understanding, a little bit patient. I think people in Egypt do want to move toward democracy, but they want real democracy. They want real freedom, not just a vote to put in a government that's going to clamp down on them and take away their freedoms. So we have to be a little tolerant of the process and getting through there. I think they'll get there, but I've got a lot of confidence in the Egyptian military. We've worked with them for a long time. Most of their senior officers have been to the United States many times. Many have been to our schools. They know America. They know what it looks like. And when they say we're not ready can't put America into Egypt just yet, we should listen to that.
And what do you make of Iran's new diplomatic push? Its supreme leader basically came out advocating for heroic diplomacy over militarism, and the president recently came out expressing well wishes toward the Israeli people. How do you view this, and could this indicate that there might soon be a breakthrough in terms of nuclear talks and the future of Iran's nuclear program?
Well, I'm not sure what it means yet, and I don't think anybody really knows. This is symptomatic of much Iranian diplomacy over the last several years. There's always an interest in opening the talks, especially if it'll reduce sanctions or postpone the day of reckoning. So Iran's very eager to talk. Whether they're willing to give up anything for it remains to be seen. And that's really the issue facing the United States and the West. If Iran is serious about not wanting to do war again, I'd like to see them pull all their forces out of Syria. Get rid of that presidential guard that's in Syria helping Bashar al-Assad. Tell Hezbollah to pull back to Lebanon and stay away. Let the Syrians sort out their problems. They don't need Iranian help to do this. And by the way, take your forces out of Iraq at the same time. You're using Iraq as a transit zone. Leave your neighbor alone. Then let's look at your peaceful intentions in the region.
And you touched on Syria. What do you think is the fate of this agreement between the U.S. and Russia regarding Syria's chemical weapons? Do you think that this could actually work?
Could work. It's a matter of some adroit diplomacy. Obviously, even when you get an agreement, there's still a lot of work to be done. And so in this case, there's three parties at least involved in this. There's the United States, there's Russia, there's Syria, there's also the Organization to Prevent Chemical Warfare. And all those parties have their own interests. Each one is pulling a slightly different way. And so it has to be worked together. And for Assad, of course, it's keep the strike out. For Russia, it's not only keep the strike off, but also elevate Russia's role in this and give us a permanent foothold in the Middle East and so forth. And for the United States, it's, well, you know, it's better to get rid of the chemical weapons than to drop 400 warheads on something, because this way you might actually make a dent in the future possibility of chemical warfare use. And once this is done, if it's really done, it's a big, big step in moving forward against chemical weapons. So there's something to be gained by all parties in this. But there's also, it's sort of like any agreement, it's fraught with obstacles and difficulties. Will they tell us the truth on where it is? What if they stall? What if they withhold? What if they move stuff out? What if the Russians are conniving in one way or another? And what if it's all about just trying to stall so the Americans lose their nerve to do the strike? You know, it's up to the diplomats. But here's the thing. When you can get the diplomats arguing, it's better than the soldiers fighting or dropping bombs.
General Wesley Clark, as always, good to speak with you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.